So this is the generic answer key for the 1 through 1-3 quiz. So the questions are not exactly going to be the same as any of the quizzes, but they're going to contain the same information. So number 1 asked you to, given a certain function, and in general they were some function such that it was something squared times a number, so like 5 times x squared plus or minus something. Now the key thing here is then you were asked to evaluate f of, or g of, it was always x plus 3, I believe. This meant you had to do this. A lot of people got here, which is fine. Then you had to distribute. Now this is where things may have fallen apart. This is the same as this, and a lot of people seem to have forgotten that. Which means when you distribute, you get 5 times x squared plus 6x plus 9, then plus 3. Order of operations, right? X times 3. 3 times x, 3 times 3. Then you get 5x squared plus 30x plus 45 plus 3 in this case. Now, like I said, this doesn't match any of the answers, but the key thing is you have to make sure you're distributing correctly before you actually then try to simplify. Okay? A lot of people missed out on this center x term. Number 2, you were given 2 functions to find the domain and range of. And in general, they were a quadratic that had been shifted up or down. Let's say plus 4. And then a square root function that had been shifted left or right. Let's say x plus 7. So domain, range, domain, range. Now I accepted a wide range of ways of writing this, but I need you to get into this habit. In this case, there is no restriction, so please write negative infinity to infinity like this, open interval. This has been shifted up 4, which means the lowest it gets is, 4 higher. That is, the lowest value it has is 4. If it had been shifted down, then that would be the lowest value. If it had been shifted up, it's the lowest value. So, but there's no left or right you have to worry about, and all you're worried about is the y values. So you should get into the habit of writing it using interval notation. Now, in this case, being a square root function, in this case you're trying to figure out when whatever that is equal to 0, which in this case is -7. Because when you put -7 in, you get 0, which is okay, but it means that -7 is what? Well, that would be the smallest value in, because you put -8, then you're going to get negative. So that would mean that you're looking at this hard interval, right? And then also here, because when you're taking the square root of -7, you get 0, you then also get any value higher. I did have people who were reversing the infinities in this. I kind of accepted that for now, but I will not moving forward. That is, you have to make sure you're writing it from left to right increasing, left to right increasing. So negative infinity to positive infinity, right? Okay, number 3 was a function that had a range, sorry, not a range, let's try that again. 3 had a domain that was unrestricted, all real, and a range that was from 0 to infinity. A couple different answers worked. Either one of those work. You can't shift these up or down. It doesn't work. Could you shift them left or right? Yeah, that would work. But you can't shift them up or down. Okay. Number 4. Algebraically odd, even, or neither. So you had functions like, say, 2x cubed plus 4x squared plus 3x. Say that was A. And for B, you might have had something like x to the 4th minus 2x squared. Okay? What I was looking for is that you at least evaluated this, and if it was even, then you could stop, but if it wasn't, you had to keep going. When you did this, you had to do it correctly. And this is where a lot of people didn't show their work necessarily very well. And then simplify. People skip steps. It did not go well. Opposite cubed means it's the same as the opposite. Squaring it, however, has no effect. And in this case, 3 times negative x is the same as minus 3x. When you compare these, f of x is not equal to f opposite x, so you need to keep going and figure out opposite f of x, which is opposite of whoops, opposite, I get ahead of myself, opposite f of x would be negative 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x. So if you look at this, f of x and f opposite x do not equal each other, right? And if you take a look at, if you take a look at f of opposite x and opposite f of x, say that 3 times fast, also not. So this is a neither function. And we actually have algebraically proof. A lot of people said graphically was fine. It said algebraically. So g opposite x, then to the fourth. Notice the parentheses, minus 2, opposite x, then squared. Raising to the fourth power, always positive. Raising to the second power, always positive. What does this mean? These are equal, so this is even. We've algebraically shown that it's actually that case. So number 5, a and b. So 5, they gave you some sort of cubic, y equals a cubic in a, and in b, y was equal some sort of quadratic. Now, it almost didn't matter what was going on, but in general, you were able to graph these, and it was kind of strongly encouraged to graph these. I had some people doing some wonky stuff. But let's say that our cubic looked like this, right? And our quadratic, maybe it looked like, I don't know, maybe it looked like this, right? You needed to figure out these relative maxima and minima. That was actually one of the questions. So let's say we knew that this was like -2, -5, and let's say we knew that this was, I don't know, -3, 6, and this was 2, -4. It does not matter when we're talking about the increasing, decreasing, and the relative max and min, but you need to find all of them, all right? Now remember, it's always in terms of the x, and we're always starting from -infinity, going to positive infinity as we're going through the graph. So we'll do the increasing, decreasing first. So this thing is increasing at first from -infinity all the way up to, and a lot of people lost a lot of points because it's always in terms of the x. Then it's decreasing from -3 to 2, because it's always in terms of the x. Then it's increasing again, comma, it increases again, but this time from 2 to infinity. Notice how these are all about the x. It does not even really matter what that is, except when you get to the second part, when you have to say what are the relative max and min, which some people just skipped. This is a relative max, and this is a relative min, okay? So let's get that last thing out of the way first. This is a relative min. We made sure to answer this. Now this thing is, and it was very curious, this thing decreases, then it increases, okay? Decreases, then it increases. Where does it start decreasing? Well, from -infinity all the way up to, in this case, whatever that min x value was. And then after that, it increases. If you stated where they were constant, that'd be fine. I wasn't necessarily looking for that. But if you did, that's okay. And that would just be at the x values of the maxima and minima, or in this case, the single minimum of -2. And that's it. Now the difference quotient, I was just looking for a little bit of effort on that, but they gave you some sort of function that was typically multiplied by a value, like let's say 7. Oh, sorry, no, I misspoke. It was something like x squared plus, say, 3x, right? And then they gave you the difference quotient. All you needed to do, because hopefully you watched the video about how to do this, but pretty clear some didn't, is plug that in. So how do we figure out f of x plus h? Well, f of x plus h would mean plugging in x plus h, wouldn't it? That's f of x plus h. So this goes in place of that. So x plus h squared plus 3 times x plus h. And then we subtract f of x, which means we subtract all of f of x, and then we divide by h. So one more time. This is f of x. This whole thing here, with sound effects, is f of x plus h. So f of x plus h minus that. If you went that far, it was fine. And that was all it was. I just made it worth 1 point. If you wanted to go through it, x plus h quantity squared is x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 3x plus 3h minus x squared minus 3x. Notice how I distribute. Then, when you combine like terms, the x squareds fall away, the 3x's fall away, so you're left with 2xh plus h squared plus 3h, all divided by h. And when you divide all by h, that means one of the h's cancels out, so we get a 2x plus an h plus a 3. And that would have been a good final answer in this case. Obviously, your answer might have varied a little bit based on what you had. That's it.